Good morning, this is Josh Latham. I'm with the Indy Home Pros team at RE/MAX Advanced, and we wanted to kind of give you a market update of what we saw back in, way back in 2019. Also looking forward, what we can expect possibly, and a very odd and compelling story within the boomer generation. I mean, I'm sure you have kids or even yourselves that have called boomers, hey boomer. Luckily I'm Gen X, so I kind of slot in between. But want to talk about what they're creating as they own, amazingly, about 2/3 of the real estate in America. So what's going to happen when these boomers kick the bucket, move back in with their own kids who had been living with them for so long, or settle down into a long-term care facility, and what becomes of their real estate assets. And they're sitting on trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in assets that they have to either liquidate, die with, pass on, sell off. So we're going to kind of touch on that. But some really cool, quick points about December of 19 over December of 18. We're kind of looking back. We don't have full numbers as of yet for the year of 2019, but we kind of wanted to touch on some really interesting facts and numbers in the MIBOR, which is the region obviously in and around Indianapolis, the real estate market, and the numbers. I'm a big numbers guy, so I kind of want to touch on that. The number of units sold in December of 19 over 18 is actually up 11%. So we're going to touch on this a little bit more later on, but if you thought that the market was slowing down at all, and you wanted to hold off from listing your house, don't. There's no point in it. The number of new listings is down 7%. So think about that. If your number of units have gone up 11%, that's sold, but your inventory has gone down, you can kind of see things are going in the opposite direction. So what does that translate to? We don't have enough homes to sell. So as a buyer, it's unfortunate because you're always put in that predicament of, once a house comes to market, having to be ready to go, like literally jump in the car and go. Obviously there's some disparaging I guess sidebars of the values of homes. So between $100,000 to $150,000 homes are going to move a lot faster than homes at $600,000–700,000. So depending on what price range you're shopping in, you should be ready. The average days on market has gone down as well. The prior month was up, but 19 December to 18 December is actually down about 5%. And so this next number kind of reflects what I was talking about earlier. The inventory's gone down 12% year over year for December for that month. So again, your units have sold has gone up, but the number of houses on inventory is dropped, which means you're buying, the houses are selling, but there's no new ones coming to market. So that's a problem. And so what do you think that creates? Your supply and demand. Your median sales price in the metropolitan Indianapolis area. December's values of 19 over December of 18 has actually gone up almost 9%. So what you're saying is, if I bought a house for $100,000 December of 18, today it's going to be worth probably about $109,000. So that also reflects the average price per square foot going up almost 10%. The percent of what the house is listed for to sold is about stagnant. It's about the same. But here's the killer, and this is, I'm speaking to everyone who's thinking about listing and selling their house. Your month's supply of inventory for December of 19 to December of 18 is down 20%. So what that's saying to everybody in our industry is, we don't have enough homes to sell. And it sounds cliche. It almost sounds like some kind of car commercial. Hey, we don't have enough cars to sell. In real estate, it's true. Again, you're going to have your price points where you're going to kind of see an increase in inventory, but in general terms, we're way down. So again, what that also does is it creates this this need for buyers to be on the ball. That also creates a need for buyers to be absolutely 100% ready and prepared, because you're going to go up against other buyers that are prepared. So our suggestion obviously is don't come to the market to shop if you haven't been pre-approved. You're already considering what you're going to do about the house that you already live in. Do you rent? Do you own? If you own, you got to think about getting ready to sell, because you can't just jump in to buy a house and not know what the heck you're going to do with that house that you have in place. So long story short on the market, it's not going anywhere. Everyone has seemingly refinanced their homes because rates have been so low. Those aren't moving much either, if at all. So if there's a time to sell, it was last year, it was the year before, and it's still now. So I encourage you to get out there and at least test the market and think, if you're going to make that next move, it's still time. The other thing I want to kind of finish on, but share with you, is the baby boomers. So everyone has a baby boomer in their life somehow, some way, neighbor, relative obviously. But what they have done essentially is they've gobbled up everything in sight since they got out of the wars and Vietnam and whatnot. And so they own about 2/3 of the real estate, residential speaking, in America. So you have a nice giant chunk of housing market around the U.S. that sits in their back pocket, plus the assets, what they're worth, and everything else that they may have in the bank. And so, like most people in Indiana, you think Indiana is such a great place, but man, if I had the opportunity, I'd probably go somewhere else when it's time to ride off in the sunset. So where do they go? They go down to Arizona and Florida, and they sell the properties here, or maybe they keep them and rent them back to people as an asset. But what they're doing is they are flooding these southern markets and staying in place. And what's going to happen when they have to go into these long-term care facilities or they pass away? They expect in the next 10 to 15 years that the housing markets in several southern cities and counties will basically implode, because the vast majority of the residences that live down there will have, it's time to go. So now you have they're suspecting 1/3 to almost a half of the inventory in some of these major cities to be on market to sell within the next 10 years. So what's funny is this has also created a problem for the younger generation. They're not moving, number one. And number two, if they are moving, they're actually deciding to sell their assets, their house and everything, and rent. And most times they can afford a lot more than a younger person coming out of school, college, just getting married. And so the rents are real high. So it's leaving these younger generational people in a place of, they're a paradox. I don't know how can they afford a house, number one, that's overflated in some locations, and the rent as well. So Indianapolis is somewhat isolated from that scenario because not a lot of people flock here to retire. But what it is going to do and has done is they're holding in place a lot longer than they have. So the average time on someone lives in a house, you used to hear about 7 to 8 years. Now it's gone up to about 10. So people are staying in their house a lot longer. Obviously that's indicative from the reports that we got and I just shared with you. So the baby boomers are, they're great for the country. But they're also kind of creating an issue that will kind of hit us in the face, all of us in the face, in the coming years. So we encourage baby boomers out there too. Hey, if you're looking to sell, sell. But they know that they have a lot of assets in place, and we just want them to share. Just share with everyone else. That's what the millennials want to do, right? Just share with us. Come on, man. Let's make it even. So keep that in mind moving forward. We want everyone to know we're going to have year-end numbers for you the next installment of this, but we want to kind of make this a monthly event, and we can share some very interesting stories that relate to your dollars and your property and your situations. But if you're looking to buy, get to it. Don't wait around. Get pre-approved. We need to get you out there and ready to buy. Be competitive. And also, if you're thinking about selling, it's not a bad time to sell. Winter months are actually pretty good, because what winter months bring you are real buyers. You don't have looky-loos. You don't have people just kind of skirting around going to open houses. They are there to shop and to buy. So you may have less showings, but they're more dedicated buyers. So if you need any help with any of this, you can visit our partner lending institution, which is Motto Mortgage. Visit with them. We have some really great people on staff to help you there. And then, of course, the Indy Home Pros team with RE/MAX. We're always here. We're the #1 selling team in the state of Indiana for several years running, and we have the people in place to benefit you and your family in your next step in life. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.